Close your eyes and breathe deeply. Tonight, we're going on a journey through sound itself, discovering why certain noises wrap around your mind like a soft blanket, gently guiding you toward the peaceful shores of sleep. Our story begins in the most unexpected place, inside your own brain, in this very moment. Right now, even as you lie still, your brain is remarkably busy. It processes somewhere between 11 million and 40 million bits of sensory information every single second. Yet you're only consciously aware of about 40 to 50 bits of that information. Your magnificent mind is constantly filtering, constantly choosing what deserves your attention and what can fade into the background. This is where our journey truly begins, because white noise works with this very mechanism, this ancient filtering system that has kept humans safe for hundreds of thousands of years. Imagine yourself standing beside a gentle waterfall in a forest at twilight. The water cascades over smooth stones, creating a sound that seems to fill every corner of the air around you. This sound, this rushing water, is one of nature's oldest forms of white noise. Our ancestors fell asleep to sounds like these for millennia, their campfires crackling beside flowing streams, wind rustling through countless leaves above their heads. White noise, in its purest technical form, contains all frequencies that human ears can detect, all playing simultaneously at equal intensity. Picture it like white light passing through a prism. White light contains all colors of the rainbow mixed together. White noise contains all pitches of sound mixed together, from the deepest bass notes your ears can perceive, around 20 cycles per second, all the way up to the highest treble, nearly 20,000 cycles per second. But here's something fascinating. When your brain encounters this complete spectrum of sound, something remarkable happens. Instead of trying to pick apart each individual frequency, instead of searching for patterns or threats, your auditory cortex, the part of your brain that processes sound, actually begins to relax. It's as if your brain says, "There's nothing specific to focus on here, nothing that requires my immediate attention." And in that recognition, a doorway to calm begins to open. Let's drift now to a rainy afternoon. Rain falling on a roof is perhaps one of the most universally soothing sounds humans experience. Each raindrop creates its own tiny sound, and when thousands of raindrops fall, they create something approaching white noise. But rain is actually what acoustic scientists call pink noise, a close cousin to white noise. Pink noise contains all the same frequencies, but the lower frequencies, the deeper sounds, are slightly more prominent. This gives pink noise a fuller, more balanced quality that many people find even more soothing than pure white noise. Your brain's response to pink noise is particularly interesting. Research has shown that pink noise can actually enhance deep sleep, the most restorative phase of your sleep cycle. In studies where people listened to pink noise during sleep, their brain waves showed longer periods of stable, deep sleep. The sound appears to synchronize with the slow oscillations in your brain during deep sleep, like a gentle hand steadying a swing, helping it maintain its rhythm. As you continue to relax, breathing slowly and deeply, consider the ocean. The rhythmic crash of waves on a shore, the eternal conversation between water and sand, this too is a form of colored noise. Some classify it as brown noise, also called Brownian noise or red noise. Brown noise emphasizes even lower frequencies than pink noise, creating an even deeper, more rumbling quality. It's like the difference between a cello and a double bass, both beautiful, but one resonates in a deeper, more grounding way. Brown noise, with its emphasis on low frequencies, has a particularly grounding effect on many people. Those low frequencies, below 1,000 cycles per second, seem to create a sense of physical stability. Some describe it as feeling wrapped in a soft, heavy blanket of sound. This makes sense when we remember that low-frequency sounds actually create slight physical vibrations we can sometimes feel in our bodies, even when we're not consciously aware of them. Now, let's explore why any of this matters to your restless mind at bedtime. When you lie down to sleep, you're asking your brain to do something that goes against millions of years of evolution. For most of human history, falling asleep meant becoming vulnerable. Your ancestors needed to remain somewhat alert for predators, for threats, for the crack of a branch that might signal danger. Your modern brain still carries this ancient vigilance. This is why sudden sounds can jolt you awake, why silence can sometimes feel unsettling, why your mind might race through tomorrow's tasks or replay today's conversations. Your brain is doing what it was designed to do: scan the environment, process information, stay alert. White noise interrupts this cycle in the gentlest possible way. It creates what auditory scientists call a sound blanket or acoustic perfume. This blanket doesn't eliminate other sounds, but it makes them less noticeable, less startling. Imagine you're in a quiet room, and someone drops a book. That sound spikes dramatically above the silence. Your brain flags it as potentially important, and your body responds with a small stress reaction. But if that same book drops while a fan is humming or rain is falling, the sound doesn't spike as dramatically above the baseline. Your brain might not even register it as worth investigating. This process is called sound masking, and it's one of the primary ways white noise helps you sleep. By creating a consistent auditory environment, white noise reduces the number of sound spikes, the number of changes that your brain has to evaluate. With fewer interruptions, your mind can more easily slip into sleep. Let's return to our waterfall now, but this time, let's understand what's happening in your brain as you listen. The sound of falling water enters your ears and causes tiny hair cells in your cochlea, the spiral-shaped organ deep in your ear, to vibrate. These vibrations convert into electrical signals that travel along your auditory nerve to your brainstem, and then up to your auditory cortex in your temporal lobe. But here's where it gets fascinating. Your auditory cortex doesn't work alone. It's intimately connected to your limbic system, the emotional center of your brain, particularly to your amygdala, which processes fear and stress. When your auditory cortex receives repetitive, non-threatening sounds like white noise or flowing water, it sends calming signals to your amygdala. Your amygdala, in turn, reduces its output of stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. At the same time, the repetitive, predictable nature of white noise activates your parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest system that counterbalances your fight or flight response. Your heart rate slows slightly, your breathing deepens and becomes more regular, your muscles release tension you didn't even know you were holding. There's also a phenomenon called auditory habituation at play. When you first turn on white noise, your brain notices it. But within minutes, sometimes even seconds, your brain recognizes the pattern as constant and unchanging. Once it determines there's no new information to extract, no threats to identify, it habituates, it learns to tune it out. But, and this is crucial, it doesn't tune it out completely. The white noise remains just present enough to mask those sudden sounds that would otherwise grab your attention. Now imagine a different scene. You're sitting in a library on a quiet afternoon. You might hear the gentle hum of air conditioning, the soft rustle of pages turning, distant footsteps on carpet, the barely audible buzz of fluorescent lights. Together, these create a form of ambient noise that many people find conducive to concentration and relaxation. This is because the sound is present but not demanding. It fills the space without requiring interpretation. This brings us to an important distinction. White noise works because it's noise without information. Unlike music, which has melody, rhythm, and lyrics that your brain wants to follow and predict, unlike speech, which your brain is hardwired to parse for meaning, white noise is beautifully, soothingly meaningless. It's sound for sound's sake, and that very meaninglessness is what allows your mind to let go. Some people discover that different colors of noise work better for them at different times. Blue noise, for instance, emphasizes the higher frequencies. It has a brighter, more hissing quality, like the spray of a strong shower or the sound of compressed air. Some find this energizing rather than relaxing, which is why blue noise is less commonly used for sleep. But for others, particularly those with certain types of hearing loss where lower frequencies are perceived more strongly, blue noise can actually feel more balanced and therefore more calming. Violet noise, also called purple noise, emphasizes even higher frequencies than blue noise. It has an almost crystalline quality. While it's rarely used for sleep, it demonstrates the full spectrum of what noise colors can be, from the deep rumble of brown noise through the balance of pink, the equality of white, the brightness of blue, all the way to the shimmer of violet. Let's drift back to more soothing sounds now. Picture yourself in a forest after a fresh snowfall. The world is hushed, but not silent. There's a quality to the air, a subtle presence of sound that's hard to describe. This is partially because snow absorbs sound waves, particularly higher frequencies, creating a natural form of pink noise in the environment. The world hasn't gone silent, it's simply had its sharpest edges smoothed away. This smoothing effect is similar to what white noise does for your mental landscape. Your thoughts throughout the day have sharp edges, urgent demands, bright colors. White noise is like that fresh snow. It doesn't erase your thoughts, but it softens them, muffles them, makes them less insistent. There's a neurological reason why repetitive sounds are so soothing, and it traces back to your earliest experiences. Before you were born, you spent months surrounded by the constant rhythmic whoosh of your mother's blood flow, the steady drum of her heartbeat, the muffled sounds of the outside world filtered through layers of tissue and fluid. These sounds were your first experience of the world, and they were constant, repetitive, and intimately associated with safety and comfort. Some researchers believe this is why white noise, particularly sounds in the frequency range of a mother's womb, can be so immediately calming, even for adults. It's not that you consciously remember the womb, but your nervous system, your deep brain structures, they remember. They remember what safety sounded like before you ever took your first breath. This connection to early development is why white noise is so commonly used to soothe babies. A colicky infant can often be calmed by sounds that mimic the womb environment, the whoosh of a vacuum cleaner, the steady drone of a car engine, the white noise of radio static. These sounds can trigger an instinctive calming response, a pre-verbal recognition of safety. But white noise isn't just about masking sounds or triggering ancient memories. It also works through a process called tonic activation. This is a baseline level of neural activity that helps regulate your overall state of arousal. Think of it like this: your brain has a general activity level, somewhat like the idle setting on a car engine. Too low, and you might feel sluggish or depressed. Too high, and you feel anxious or hyperactive. White noise appears to help regulate this baseline activity level. For people whose brains tend to run too active, particularly those with ADHD or anxiety disorders, white noise can provide just enough stimulation to prevent the brain from seeking out more stimulation through racing thoughts or environmental scanning. It's like giving a restless mind a simple, harmless task to focus on, freeing up the rest of your consciousness to relax. Interestingly, this same mechanism explains why some people find white noise helpful for focus and concentration, not just for sleep. The steady background sound keeps the restless parts of the brain occupied while the thinking parts can concentrate on the task at hand. Let's visit another soothing sound, a crackling fireplace. The random pops and crackles of burning wood, the low roar of flames consuming fuel. This is another natural form of pink noise that humans have found comforting for hundreds of thousands of years. Fire meant warmth, safety from predators, cooked food, and community. Our ancestors gathered around fires to share stories, to find comfort in the darkness. The sound of fire is woven into our collective memory as a signal of security. The randomness of a crackling fire is particularly interesting. While white noise is characterized by randomness across all frequencies, the specific random pattern of crackling contains what mathematicians call fractal properties. This means the pattern of pops and crackles is similar whether you zoom in or out in time. This fractal quality appears in many natural sounds that humans find pleasing: waves on a shore, wind through trees, rain falling on leaves. Some scientists theorize that our brains find fractal patterns in nature inherently soothing because they represent natural, predictable randomness. It's chaos, but organic chaos, the kind that poses no threat. This is different from the chaos of, say, car alarms and sirens and construction noise, which represents human activity and potential problems requiring attention. As you continue to breathe deeply and relax, consider the sound of wind. A steady wind through trees creates a complex sound pattern that shifts and flows but maintains a consistent presence. This is another natural form of colored noise, though its exact classification depends on the specific characteristics of the wind and the environment it's moving through. Wind sounds work on your psyche in interesting ways. Throughout human evolution, wind was a constant companion. Our ancestors couldn't escape the weather, couldn't seal themselves in climate-controlled buildings. The sound of wind was part of the natural soundscape of life, sometimes threatening in storms, but often just present, a reminder of the world's constant movement. Gentle wind sounds tend to create what researchers call a spatial soundscape in your imagination. Even if you're lying in a quiet bedroom, the sound of wind can make you feel as though you're in a larger, open space. This can be psychologically comforting, counteracting any feelings of confinement or enclosure that might trigger subtle anxiety. Now let's explore the science of why consistency matters so much for sleep. Your brain's sleep-wake cycle, your circadian rhythm, depends heavily on consistency. Consistent bedtimes, consistent wake times, consistent sleep environments all help reinforce healthy sleep patterns. White noise contributes to this consistency in the auditory dimension. When you use the same white noise every night, your brain begins to associate that specific sound with sleep. This is classical conditioning, the same process that made Pavlov's dogs salivate at the sound of a bell. After enough repetitions, the white noise itself becomes a sleep cue. Your brain hears that familiar sound and begins initiating the cascade of neurological and hormonal changes that lead to sleep, slowing your heart rate, cooling your core body temperature, releasing melatonin. This conditioning effect can be remarkably powerful. People who regularly use white noise often find that they feel sleepy as soon as they hear their particular sound, even if it's the middle of the day. This is their brain's learned association in action. Let's turn our attention now to the bedroom environment. Even in the quietest homes, there are sounds. The refrigerator cycles on and off. The house settles and creaks. A car passes outside. Your partner shifts in bed. Each of these sounds represents a change in your auditory environment, and changes are what grab your brain's attention. Sleep scientists measure environmental disruptions in terms of how much they raise your autonomic arousal. Even if a sound doesn't fully wake you, it can lighten your sleep stage, pulling you from deep restorative sleep into lighter stage 2 sleep, or from REM sleep, where you dream, into light sleep. These microarousals fragment your sleep, leaving you feeling less rested even if you slept for 8 hours. White noise reduces these microarousals by creating that sound blanket we discussed earlier. The technical term for this is threshold shift. White noise raises the threshold of sound intensity needed to trigger an arousal response. A sound that would have caused a microarousal in silence might not even be perceived above the white noise baseline. Imagine you're standing in a completely dark room. If someone turns on even a small flashlight, you'll immediately notice it. But if you're standing outside on a bright sunny day, that same flashlight would be invisible. White noise works like the bright day. It raises the baseline so that small variations don't stand out. Let's visit the ocean once more, but this time, let's think about what makes the sound of waves so universally calming. Ocean waves have a rhythmic quality that entrains your breathing and heart rate. Entrainment is the process by which rhythmic stimuli can influence your body's own rhythms. When you listen to the regular crash and retreat of waves, typically with a cycle of about 10 to 20 seconds, your breathing naturally begins to slow and deepen to match that rhythm. This slower, deeper breathing activates your vagus nerve, a major nerve that runs from your brainstem down through your chest and abdomen. The vagus nerve is the primary channel of your parasympathetic nervous system, and its activation triggers a cascade of calming effects throughout your body. Your heart rate slows, your blood pressure decreases slightly, your digestion improves, and your body releases fewer stress hormones. Interestingly, the sound of waves also tends to be in a frequency range that minimizes activation of your startle response. The startle response is an automatic reaction to sudden, loud noises, particularly high-pitched ones that might signal danger. Waves, being primarily low to mid-frequency sounds, don't trigger this response, allowing your nervous system to remain calm. Different people respond to different frequencies of white noise, and this appears to be related to individual variations in hearing sensitivity and brain chemistry. Some people with anxiety find lower frequencies more grounding, while others find mid-range frequencies more soothing. There's no single best frequency, which is why the variety of noise colors and natural sounds can be so valuable. For people with tinnitus, the phantom ringing or buzzing in the ears that affects millions of people, white noise can provide particular relief. Tinnitus is often most noticeable in quiet environments, where there's no external sound to distract from the internal perception. White noise provides that external sound, reducing the relative prominence of the tinnitus and making it easier to ignore. The mechanism here is similar to the masking effect for external sounds, but it's masking an internal sound instead. For many people with tinnitus, this relief is profound. The constant ringing that might have made sleep impossible becomes manageable, fading into the background of the white noise. Let's explore another natural sound, a gentle stream. The burbling of water over rocks creates a complex acoustic pattern that varies from moment to moment but maintains consistent overall characteristics. This balance between variation and consistency is important. Too consistent, and a sound might become monotonous in an unpleasant way. Too variable, and it requires too much attention. Natural sounds like streams tend to hit a sweet spot, variable enough to remain interesting at a subconscious level, but consistent enough to be soothing. This quality is sometimes called smooth stochastic variation, which is a fancy way of saying random changes that flow smoothly rather than jumping abruptly. Your brain appears to find this kind of variation pleasing because it mirrors many patterns in nature, patterns that were part of the environment in which human cognition evolved. There's also something deeply meditative about natural sounds like running water. Meditation practices often emphasize focusing on a single point of attention, whether that's your breath, a mantra, or a visual object. White noise can serve a similar function. When intrusive thoughts arise, you can gently redirect your attention to the sound, using it as an anchor to keep you present and prevent your mind from spinning off into worry or planning. Now, let's consider the phenomenon of sound sensitivity. Some people are particularly sensitive to sounds, a trait sometimes called auditory hypersensitivity or misophonia in its more severe forms. For these individuals, sounds that others barely notice, like chewing, breathing, or typing, can trigger strong negative emotional responses. White noise can be particularly helpful for sound-sensitive individuals because it provides a gentle auditory input that's within their control. Unlike the sounds in their environment, which they can't predict or prevent, white noise is constant and chosen. This sense of control is psychologically important. Feeling in control of your environment, even in small ways, can significantly reduce anxiety and improve sleep quality. The volume of white noise matters too. It should be loud enough to mask disruptive sounds but not so loud that it becomes disruptive itself. Most sleep experts recommend keeping white noise at around 50 to 70 decibels, roughly equivalent to a quiet conversation or moderate rainfall. This is loud enough to be effective but quiet enough that it won't damage your hearing or prevent you from hearing important sounds like smoke alarms or crying children. Let's drift now to a summer afternoon, imagining the sound of cicadas in the trees. That steady, oscillating drone is another form of natural noise that many people find surprisingly soothing, despite it being quite loud. Cicada sounds have a rhythmic, pulsing quality that creates a sense of summer heat and lazy afternoons. For those who grew up hearing cicadas, the sound can trigger nostalgic, peaceful memories, adding an emotional layer to the auditory experience. This points to an important aspect of how white noise works. It's not purely about the acoustic properties of the sound. Your personal history, your memories and associations play a significant role in how soothing you find any particular sound. Rain might be deeply calming to someone who has happy memories of rainy days reading by the window, but anxiety-inducing to someone who experienced trauma during a storm. This is why exploring different types of white and colored noise can be valuable. You're not just looking for the right acoustic profile, you're looking for the sound that resonates with your unique nervous system and personal history. There's also a social dimension to white noise use. In many cultures, silence is not the natural background for sleep. Extended families living together, thin walls and crowded cities, these create environments where constant background noise is normal. In these contexts, white noise can recreate a familiar auditory environment for people who've moved to quieter settings, helping them feel more at home and therefore more able to relax. Consider now the sound of rain on a tent. If you've ever gone camping, you know there are few sounds more conducive to sleep than rain pattering on the nylon roof of a tent. This sound combines several elements we've discussed. It's pink noise. It has the positive associations of being sheltered while the elements rage gently outside, and it creates a sense of enclosure and safety. The quality of enclosure is interesting from a psychological perspective. Throughout human history, finding or creating a safe, enclosed space for sleep was crucial for survival. Caves, huts, tents, these represented protection from predators and weather. Rain on a tent reinforces this sense of protected enclosure. You're dry and safe while the rain falls outside. This can trigger deep feelings of security that facilitate sleep. White noise machines and apps have become increasingly sophisticated, offering not just static white noise but carefully crafted soundscapes that blend multiple elements. A forest soundscape might combine gentle wind, distant bird calls, and rustling leaves. An ocean soundscape might layer the rhythm of waves with the cries of seabirds and the subtle roar of wind. These complex soundscapes can be more engaging than simple white noise while still maintaining the key characteristics that promote sleep: consistency, appropriate frequency distribution, and lack of sudden changes. They provide your brain with a richer auditory environment to habituate to, which some people find more satisfying than pure white noise. Let's explore the concept of sonic texture. Just as fabrics have different textures, smooth or rough, fine or coarse, sounds have textures too. Pure white noise has a relatively uniform texture, like smooth sand. Pink noise has a slightly richer, more varied texture, like soft fabric. Natural sounds like rain or ocean waves have even more complex textures, with variations in the size and timing of individual sound events. Your brain processes these sonic textures differently. Some people find smooth textures more soothing, while others prefer more complex textures. This is similar to how some people prefer soft, smooth blankets while others like textured or weighted blankets. It's about finding what feels right to your particular nervous system. There's also emerging research on binaural beats, which involves playing slightly different frequencies in each ear to create a perceived beat frequency in the brain. While not technically white noise, binaural beats are often used in combination with white noise for sleep. The theory is that these beat frequencies can encourage your brain to produce more of the slower brain waves associated with deep sleep and relaxation. The evidence for binaural beats is still being evaluated, but many people report finding them helpful. They represent an interesting intersection between white noise, which is about masking and habituation, and active entrainment, where specific frequencies are used to directly influence brain activity. Now imagine lying in a meadow on a breezy day. The grass rustles around you, creating a soft, shushing sound that seems to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. This is another form of natural white noise, random and continuous, filling the space without demanding attention. The sound of grass and wind has an almost whispering quality, as though nature itself is telling you secrets too quiet to quite hear. This quality of being present but not quite intelligible is key to effective white noise. It's there, you can hear it, but there's nothing to understand, no message to decode. This lack of semantic content is what allows your language centers to rest, to stop processing and analyzing and just be. For people whose minds tend to race at bedtime, replaying conversations, or planning tomorrow's tasks, white noise can provide a gentle alternative focus. Instead of trying to stop thinking, which often just makes you think more intensely about not thinking, you can redirect your attention to the sound. This gives your mind something neutral to do, breaking the cycle of rumination. Let's visit a different scene, a coffee shop in the morning. The collective murmur of conversations, the hiss of the espresso machine, the clink of cups, the background music, all these blend together into what researchers call cafeteria noise or the cocktail party effect. While not white noise, this ambient human environment shares some characteristics with it. It's relatively constant. It varies in complex ways that don't require attention, and for many people, it's conducive to both concentration and relaxation. Some people actually prefer this kind of ambient human noise to pure white noise for sleep or relaxation. It can create a sense of connection and presence, a feeling of being part of a community even while alone. This speaks to how individual the experience of soothing sound can be. The temperature of your bedroom also interacts with white noise in interesting ways. Most people sleep best in cooler temperatures, typically around 60 to 67 degrees Fahrenheit. The sound of a fan, which produces white noise, also helps cool the room and circulate air, creating a multi-sensory environment conducive to sleep. The combination of cool air and steady sound can be particularly effective. This multi-sensory aspect points to how white noise is just one element of good sleep hygiene. Darkness, cool temperature, comfortable bedding, and soothing sound all work together to signal to your body that it's time to rest. White noise is like one instrument in an orchestra of sleep, most effective when working in harmony with the others. Let's think about seasonal sounds now. In winter, wind howling around a house while you're warm inside can be deeply soothing. In spring, the sound of rain on new leaves. In summer, crickets and distant thunder. In autumn, wind rustling through dry leaves. Each season has its characteristic soundscape, and these seasonal sounds can evoke powerful feelings of safety and comfort. Many white noise apps offer seasonal soundscapes, allowing you to create the auditory environment that feels most soothing to you regardless of what's actually happening outside your window. You can have summer thunderstorms in January or autumn leaves in June, whatever serves your need for rest. There's something to be said for the psychological freedom this provides. You're not at the mercy of your actual environment. If you live on a noisy street, you can choose to hear ocean waves instead. If your neighbors are having a party, you can transport yourself to a quiet forest. This ability to choose your soundscape is a form of self-care, a way of taking control of your experience. Consider now the sound of a distant thunderstorm. The low rumble of thunder, far enough away to be safe but close enough to hear, creates a brown noise with irregular but predictable variations. Thunderstorms have been part of the human experience forever, signals of rain and atmospheric change. For many people, distant thunder is deeply soothing, perhaps because it signals the drama is happening elsewhere, while you remain safe and dry. The key word here is distant. Close thunder can trigger startle responses and anxiety, but distant thunder falls into that sweet spot of being interesting without being threatening, variable without being alarming. It's nature at its most dynamic, experienced from a position of safety. White noise can also help with sleep inertia, that groggy, disoriented feeling you sometimes have when you wake up. By creating a consistent auditory environment, white noise can make the transition from sleep to wakefulness smoother. Instead of jolting awake to alarming sounds, you gradually become aware of the constant background sound, which can ease you more gently into consciousness. Some people use white noise not just for nighttime sleep but for naps as well. Daytime napping can be particularly challenging because the world around you is active and noisy. White noise can create a bubble of calm in the middle of the day, masking the sounds of traffic, construction, and daily activity, allowing for restorative rest even when the sun is high. There's also the question of whether to use white noise all night or just to fall asleep. Some people prefer to set a timer, having the white noise play for 30 to 60 minutes while they fall asleep, then automatically turning off. Others prefer to have it play all night, ensuring consistent sound masking. There's no right answer, it depends on your individual needs and preferences. For those who choose all-night white noise, there's evidence that it continues to provide benefits throughout the night by preventing sound-related microarousals. Even when you're deeply asleep and not consciously aware of sounds, your brain is still monitoring the auditory environment, and sudden sounds can still trigger those brief lightnings of sleep that fragment rest. Let's drift back to nature one more time, imagining a gentle breeze through pine trees. The whisper of wind through pine needles creates a soft, sustained shushing sound, higher in frequency than wind through deciduous trees but still soothing and consistent. Pine forests have their own particular acoustic character, and for those who've spent time in such places, the sound can evoke powerful memories of peace and natural beauty. This brings us back to the personal nature of sound preferences. Your ideal white noise is the one that speaks to your nervous system, your history, your unique configuration of sensory processing and emotional association. It might be pure white noise, the kind of static you'd hear between radio stations. It might be pink noise, brown noise, or one of the many nature sounds available. The important thing is that it works for you. As we near the end of our journey through sound and sleep, it's worth reflecting on what we've discovered. White noise works through multiple mechanisms: sound masking, habituation, conditioning, entrainment, and emotional association. It engages with your brain at multiple levels, from the mechanical processing of sound waves in your inner ear to the emotional processing in your limbic system, from the conscious awareness of sound in your cortex to the automatic regulation of arousal in your brainstem. But perhaps more important than any of these mechanisms is the simple gift that white noise provides: permission to let go. In our hyper-connected, always-on world, we're conditioned to be constantly alert, constantly processing, constantly available. White noise is like a gentle hand on your shoulder, telling you it's okay to stop, to rest, to turn your attention inward and allow sleep to come. It's a bridge between waking and sleeping, between the bright, sharp-edged world of consciousness and the soft, flowing world of dreams. It's your companion in the quiet hours, a steady presence that asks nothing of you except that you breathe, relax, and trust in the ancient wisdom of your body's need for rest. As you settle deeper into comfort now, your breathing slow and steady, your body heavy and relaxed, know that you're participating in something profoundly natural. Humans have always sought out soothing sounds for rest. The rush of streams, the whisper of wind, the rhythm of waves, these have lulled our species to sleep for as long as we've existed. White noise, in all its colors and variations, is simply a modern expression of this ancient need. It's technology in service of something timeless, the deep, restorative sleep that allows us to wake refreshed and ready to engage with life once more. So let the sound surround you now, whatever form it takes. Let it fill the space around you, creating a protective cocoon of gentle, meaningless noise. Let it mask the sounds that would disturb you, the creaks and clicks and distant rumbles of the world going on without you. Let it remind you that you're safe, that there's nothing you need to attend to, nothing requiring your immediate action or awareness. Let it guide you gently down through the layers of consciousness, from waking awareness to drowsy relaxation, from relaxation to the threshold of sleep, and finally, peacefully, into the deep, renewing rest you so richly deserve. Breathe in. Breathe out. Let go. The sound will continue without you. Sleep will come. And in the morning, you'll wake renewed, having traveled through the night accompanied by the gentle, constant companion of soothing sound. Rest well, dear traveler. Your journey through sound has brought you safely home to sleep. Not yet, even as you drift deeper, there's more to explore in this landscape of sound and silence. Let's continue our journey, moving even more slowly now, like a leaf floating gently down a calm river, discovering new depths of understanding about the sounds that cradle you toward rest. Think for a moment about the structure of your ear itself, this remarkable organ that transforms the invisible movement of air into the experience of sound. Your outer ear, the part you can see, is shaped to capture and funnel sound waves inward. But the real magic happens deeper, in the middle ear where three tiny bones, the smallest in your entire body, amplify vibrations, and then in the inner ear where fluid-filled chambers convert those vibrations into electrical signals your brain can understand. White noise enters this system as a complex wave, and something remarkable happens in your cochlea. Different frequencies cause different parts of the cochlear membrane to vibrate. High frequencies affect the base of the cochlea, near the entrance, while low frequencies travel all the way to the apex, the innermost coil. White noise, containing all frequencies, stimulates the entire length of this spiral structure simultaneously. This creates a kind of full-spectrum activation that many researchers believe contributes to its soothing effect. When your cochlea is evenly stimulated across its full range, there are no gaps for your brain to fill in, no missing frequencies that might make your auditory system search for threats in the silence. It's like the difference between a smoothly painted wall and one with patches. Your eye is naturally drawn to the irregularities, just as your ear, or rather your brain, is drawn to irregularities in sound. Let's wander now to a rainy night in a city, where raindrops fall on metal fire escapes, creating a higher-pitched patter than rain on earth or leaves. Each surface rain touches creates its own acoustic signature. Rain on glass sounds different from rain on concrete, which sounds different from rain on water. When you listen to a complex rain soundscape, you're actually hearing multiple layers of pink noise at different frequencies and intensities, all woven together into a rich tapestry of sound. This complexity is part of what makes rain so universally beloved as a sleep sound. It's not monotonous because there's always slight variation, the intensity shifts, the pitch changes as wind blows, different surfaces are struck. Yet it maintains that crucial quality of being non-informational. Your brain doesn't need to decode the patterns or predict what comes next. It can simply rest in the experience. There's a concept in acoustic ecology called the soundscape, which encompasses all the sounds in a given environment. Natural soundscapes typically have three components: geophony, sounds from non-biological natural sources like wind and water; biophony, sounds from living creatures like birds and insects; and anthrophony, sounds from human activity. White noise in nature sounds primarily engage with geophony, tapping into the most ancient and fundamental layer of the acoustic environment. Our ancestors evolved for millions of years with geophony as the constant background. The rush of wind, the flow of water, the rumble of distant thunder, these were the sounds of home long before there were cities or machines. When you listen to these sounds or their modern white noise equivalents, you're reconnecting with something deeply ancestral, a sonic heritage encoded in your very neurobiology. Imagine now that you're in a desert at night. The temperature drops, and a breeze moves across sand dunes, creating a soft, sustained whisper. Desert wind has its own quality, drier somehow than forest wind, with occasional grains of sand adding a subtle texture to the sound. This is white noise shaped by environment, filtered through the unique acoustic properties of sand and space. In the desert, sound also travels differently than in humid environments. The dry air carries certain frequencies more efficiently, while absorbing others. This creates a particular sonic signature that people who've spent time in deserts find distinctive and often soothing. It's a reminder that white noise isn't just about frequency content but also about how those frequencies interact with the environment and reach your ears. Let's explore the concept of sonic architecture. Just as buildings have physical architecture, spaces have sonic architecture determined by their size, shape, and the materials they contain. A small, carpeted bedroom with heavy curtains will absorb sound, creating a muffled, intimate acoustic space. A large room with hard surfaces will reflect sound, creating more echo and ambience. White noise interacts with sonic architecture in interesting ways. In a reflective space, white noise can seem to fill the room, bouncing off surfaces and creating an enveloping experience. In an absorptive space, white noise stays more localized, creating a sense of intimacy. Understanding your room's sonic architecture can help you choose the right volume and type of white noise for optimal sleep. Consider the phenomenon of sonic imprinting. Just as young animals can imprint on visual stimuli, associating the first thing they see with safety and home, humans can create sonic imprints. If you consistently use the same white noise in the same environment for sleep, your brain begins to associate that specific sound with that specific safe space. The sound becomes a trigger for the entire constellation of feelings associated with your bedroom: safety, relaxation, permission to be vulnerable. This is why many people find it helpful to use white noise not just at home but when traveling. Bringing your familiar sleep sound to a hotel room or unfamiliar place can help recreate that sense of sonic familiarity, making it easier to relax in a strange environment. It's like bringing a piece of home with you in the form of sound. Let's drift to a mountain stream now. Ice-cold water tumbling over smooth stones worn round by centuries of flow. Mountain streams create a bright, crisp sound, higher in frequency than lowland rivers because the water is moving faster and splashing more. This creates a form of white noise that's energizing and cleansing, though still ultimately soothing in its constancy. The negative ions generated by flowing water, particularly waterfalls and fast streams, have been studied for their potential effects on mood and well-being. While you can't get negative ions from recorded water sounds, the association between flowing water and feelings of freshness and clarity is strong enough that even simulated water sounds can evoke similar emotional responses. There's also something meditative about the endlessness of flowing water. It was running before you arrived. It will continue after you leave. This sense of continuity, of being part of something larger and more permanent than your individual concerns, can be profoundly calming. Your worries are small and temporary against the backdrop of eternal water finding its way downhill. Now let's consider the relationship between white noise and memory consolidation. During sleep, particularly during specific phases of deep sleep, your brain processes the experiences and information from the day, deciding what to keep and what to discard, strengthening important neural connections and pruning unnecessary ones. This process is crucial for learning and memory. Some research suggests that stable, consistent sleep enabled by white noise may enhance this memory consolidation process. When your sleep is less fragmented by environmental sounds, your brain has more uninterrupted time in the sleep stages where memory processing occurs. You wake up not just more rested but potentially with better retention of what you learned the day before. Imagine lying on a wooden dock in summer, listening to water lap gently against the posts beneath you. The hollow sound of water moving through the structure creates a unique acoustic experience, part liquid, part resonance. This is pink noise modified by the physical structure it interacts with, creating something richer and more complex than simple water sounds. The rhythm of lapping water is slower than ocean waves, often just a few movements per minute rather than per second. This very slow rhythm can induce a meditative state, your attention following each small sound event while your overall awareness remains relaxed and diffuse. It's active listening that leads to passive consciousness, a paradox that facilitates the transition to sleep. Let's explore binaural recording techniques used to create some modern white noise soundscapes. Binaural recording uses two microphones arranged to simulate human ears, capturing sound the way you would actually hear it with subtle differences in timing and intensity between left and right channels. When you listen to binaural recordings through headphones, your brain processes these differences to create a three-dimensional sound experience. This 3D quality can make nature soundscapes feel more immersive and realistic, as though you're actually present in the environment rather than just hearing it. This increased realism can deepen the relaxation response, making it easier for your mind to release its grip on the physical reality of your bedroom and drift into the imagined space of a forest or beach. Consider now the inverse square law of sound. In physical reality, sound intensity decreases with the square of distance from the source. Doubling your distance from a sound source reduces its intensity to 1/4. This is why distant sounds feel safer than close sounds, even if they're the same type of sound. Distant thunder is soothing, close thunder is startling. Many white noise soundscapes incorporate this principle, placing sound sources at various implied distances. Distant rain, nearby brook, far-off birds. This layering of sonic depth creates a rich environment that feels naturalistic and therefore trustworthy to your ancient brain structures that assess environmental safety. Let's visit a bamboo forest in a light rain. Raindrops on bamboo create a distinctive talk-talk-talk sound, higher and more percussive than rain on leaves. The hollow structure of bamboo stalks creates resonance, each becoming a small percussion instrument. Together, thousands of bamboo stalks and rain create a complex soundscape that's both rhythmic and random, both musical and natural. This balance between musicality and randomness is important. Too musical, and sound engages your brain's pattern recognition systems, making you want to follow along, to predict what comes next. Too random, and it can feel chaotic or unsettling. The sweet spot is sounds that have structure but not melody, rhythm but not beat, pattern but not predictability. The concept of acoustic comfort is worth exploring. Just as thermal comfort describes the range of temperatures where you feel neither too hot nor too cold, acoustic comfort describes the range of sound levels and types where you feel neither understimulated nor overstimulated. This range varies by individual, influenced by factors like sensory processing sensitivity, previous experiences, and even genetics. White noise helps many people achieve acoustic comfort by providing a steady baseline of stimulation that's within their comfort zone. For people whose baseline is easily disrupted by sudden sounds, white noise acts as a stabilizer, keeping them in the acoustic comfort zone throughout the night. Imagine now a gentle rain falling on a lake. Each raindrop creates a small splash, thousands of tiny disturbances on the water's surface. The sound is softer than rain on land because water absorbs the impact rather than reflecting it. This creates a subtle, hushed quality, like nature whispering. It's one of the gentlest forms of rain sound, ideal for the deepest relaxation. Rain on water also has a temporal quality that's particularly soothing. Each raindrop's sound begins crisply with the initial impact, then quickly fades. Thousands of these micro-events create a continuous texture where nothing lingers long enough to demand sustained attention. It's the sonic equivalent of watching snowflakes fall, each one brief and beautiful and immediately replaced by the next. Let's consider the role of expectation and how white noise affects you. If you approach white noise believing it will help you sleep, this expectation itself can have a measurable effect. This isn't just placebo, it's your brain's predictive processing in action. Your brain is constantly making predictions about what will happen next and preparing your body accordingly. When you hear your familiar sleep sound, your brain predicts that sleep will follow, and it begins initiating the physiological changes associated with sleep even before you're fully relaxed. This is learned expectation working in your favor, making white noise more effective the longer you use it. Picture yourself in a canyon, where wind creates complex patterns as it flows around rock formations. The wind accelerates through narrow passages, creating higher-pitched whistles, then spreads and deepens in wider spaces. This creates a constantly shifting but always present sound, a natural symphony of air and stone. Canyon winds remind us that white noise in nature is never truly static. Even the steadiest sounds have subtle variations that keep them organic and alive. This slight variability may actually be more soothing than perfectly consistent artificial white noise because it feels more natural, more trustworthy to the pattern recognition systems in your brain. Let's explore the concept of sonic privacy. In shared living spaces, walls often don't provide complete sound isolation. White noise can create a layer of sonic privacy, making it harder for you to hear your neighbors and harder for them to hear you. This creates a sense of personal space within your bedroom, a bubble of acoustic autonomy that can be psychologically very comforting. This privacy works both ways. Not only are external sounds masked, but you might also feel less self-conscious about your own sounds, your breathing, movements, or if you share a bed, the sounds of your partner. This reduction in self-consciousness can help you relax more fully. Imagine warm summer rain falling on hot pavement, creating that distinctive smell of petrichor and a soft sizzling sound as water meets hot stone. This sound is subtle but distinctive, part of summer storm soundscapes that many people find nostalgic and comforting. It speaks to the multisensory nature of our memories. Even though you can't smell through recorded sound, your brain might recall the scent association, enriching the experience. These cross-modal associations, where one sense triggers memories in another, are powerful. The sound of rain might evoke the smell of wet earth. Ocean sounds might recall the taste of salt air. These sensory memories can deepen your relaxation by engaging more of your brain in the peaceful recollection. Let's discuss the phenomenon of auditory pareidolia, where your brain tries to find patterns or meaning in random noise. You might occasionally hear what sounds like voices or music in white noise. This is your brain doing what it evolved to do, searching for meaningful patterns, particularly human communication, which was crucial for survival. When this happens, it's not a problem with the white noise, it's just your brain being vigilant. If you notice it happening, you can simply acknowledge the pattern your brain has created and let it go, returning your attention to the overall texture of the sound rather than any perceived details. It's like watching clouds and seeing shapes. The shapes aren't really there, but finding them can be part of the relaxation process. Consider lying in a meadow in late spring, listening to the wind move through tall grass and wildflowers. The sound is layered, grasses rustling at one frequency, flower stalks at another, the overall movement of the meadow creating a soft, sustained whisper. This is white noise with texture, with personality, shaped by the specific plants moving in the specific wind. Meadow sounds have a quality of openness, of horizontal space rather than vertical space like forests. This can create a feeling of expansiveness, which some people find liberating and relaxing. Others prefer the enclosure suggested by forest sounds. Again, it's about finding what resonates with your particular nervous system and psychology. The ear's relationship to balance and spatial orientation is worth considering. Your inner ear contains not just the cochlea for hearing but also the vestibular system for balance and spatial awareness. These systems are physically connected and influence each other. Some researchers speculate that the way white noise evenly stimulates the cochlea might have subtle calming effects on the vestibular system as well. This could explain why some people report feeling physically grounded or settled when listening to white noise, particularly brown noise with its emphasis on low frequencies. It's not just mental calm but physical calm, a sense of stability and rootedness that makes sleep easier. Let's visit a tropical rainforest at night. The soundscape is alive with insects, each species creating its own frequency, together forming a dense wall of sound that is remarkably similar to white noise. This biological white noise served as the sleeping environment for many of our evolutionary ancestors. The constant sound signaled that the ecosystem was functioning normally, that no predators had disturbed the regular nighttime chorus. When the insects suddenly went silent, that was the signal of danger. So the presence of continuous sound became associated with safety, while sudden silence became associated with threat. This ancient association still lives in your nervous system, which is part of why silence can sometimes feel unsettling at bedtime. Consider the difference between analog and digital white noise. Analog white noise, generated by electronic circuits or natural processes, has true randomness. Digital white noise, generated by algorithms, creates pseudo-randomness that's technically predictable but practically indistinguishable from true randomness to human ears. Most white noise apps and machines use digital generation, and for the purposes of sleep and relaxation, it works just as well as analog. There's something philosophically interesting about this. The comfort you derive from white noise doesn't depend on it being genuinely random, just on it sounding random to you. This suggests that the benefit comes not from the objective properties of the sound but from how your brain interprets it, from the meaning, or lack of meaning, that you assign to it. Imagine standing on a ship at sea at night, hearing the constant rush of water along the hull, the creak of wood or metal, the subtle movement of rigging. This is another soundscape that has soothed humans for centuries, sailors learning to sleep in the constant motion and sound of a vessel at sea. The sounds signal that everything is functioning as it should, that the ship is moving through water as intended. Maritime sounds often have a rocking quality that can evoke the gentle motion of being at sea, even when you're completely still in your bed. This might trigger body memories of being rocked to sleep as an infant, adding another layer of comfort to the auditory experience. Let's explore cultural differences in sound preferences. In some cultures, complete silence is prized for sleep, while in others, constant background sound is normal and expected. These cultural norms shape what feels comfortable and natural to you. If you grew up in a quiet suburban home, you might initially find white noise strange, while someone who grew up in a busy city might find silence unsettling. The beauty of white noise is its adaptability. It can recreate either environment. You can use it to achieve the silence that's culturally familiar to you by masking disruptive sounds, or you can use it to create the ambient presence that feels like home. It's a tool that works across cultural contexts because it addresses fundamental features of human auditory processing. Picture a gentle snowfall at night. Snow falling makes almost no sound, but the effect of snow on the environment creates a distinctive soundscape. Sound is muffled, high frequencies absorbed by snow cover, creating a natural low-pass filter that emphasizes deeper sounds. The world becomes quieter, softer, wrapped in white not just visually but sonically. Some white noise apps include snow soundscapes that try to capture this muffled quality. It's subtle, more about what's absent than what's present, but for those who love winter or who have positive associations with snowy nights, it can be deeply comforting. The psychological concept of sensory gating is relevant here. Your brain constantly filters sensory information, deciding what reaches conscious awareness and what gets suppressed. During wakefulness, sensory gates are relatively open to keep you alert and responsive. During sleep, they need to close more to allow rest, but not so completely that you can't wake to real dangers. White noise helps facilitate appropriate sensory gating. It provides a stable baseline against which your brain can more easily identify true anomalies worth attention while filtering out minor variations that don't matter. This helps your sensory gates find the right balance for sleep. Imagine the sound of a distant highway at night. While traffic noise is usually considered disruptive, when sufficiently distant, it creates a sustained low rumble that approaches brown noise. Some people who grew up near highways find this sound comforting, associated with home and safety. This shows how any consistent sound can become soothing through association, even sounds that seem inherently urban or industrial. This reminds us that there's no objective hierarchy of which sounds should be soothing. Your history, your associations, your unique nervous system determine what works for you. The sound of a distant train, a fan, rain on a roof, or pure electronic white noise, any of these can be your personal key to relaxation. Let's consider the economics of attention. Your brain has limited attentional resources, like a budget it must allocate across different demands. During waking hours, this budget is spread across many tasks: work, conversation, navigation, planning, worrying. At bedtime, ideally, you want to withdraw attention from all these demanding tasks and allow your consciousness to diffuse and drift. White noise acts like an attentional sink, a benign place where you can invest small amounts of attention without it leading anywhere demanding. You can listen to white noise without it requiring problem solving, emotional processing, or decision making. It absorbs just enough attention to give your mind something neutral to do while the rest of your consciousness winds down. Picture yourself beside an alpine lake, so still it perfectly mirrors the sky. Occasionally a small ripple disturbs the surface, creating a gentle lapping sound against the rocky shore. These small sounds are irregular, unpredictable in timing, but consistent in character. This combination of unpredictable timing with predictable character is another feature of effective sleep sounds. Your brain can't predict exactly when the next lap of water will occur, so it can't engage its prediction machinery. But each sound when it comes is familiar and safe, requiring no evaluation or response. This keeps you present without keeping you alert, anchored in the moment without being activated for action. The relationship between white noise and dreams is intriguing. Some people report that white noise influences their dream content, perhaps because their sleeping brain continues to process the auditory input at some level, incorporating it into dream narratives. You might dream of being near water if you're listening to ocean sounds, or in the rain if you're listening to rainfall. This incorporation of external stimuli into dreams isn't unique to white noise. It's a normal feature of how the sleeping brain maintains some connection to the external environment while creating its internal experiences. White noise is simply predictable and neutral enough that when incorporated, it tends not to disturb sleep. Let's explore the concept of acoustic ecology more deeply. Every environment has an acoustic signature, a typical soundscape that characterizes it. Healthy natural environments tend to have balanced, diverse soundscapes with steady geophonic and biophonic elements. Degraded environments might have fewer biological sounds and more abrupt, unpredictable noises. White noise and nature sounds can recreate the acoustic signature of healthy environments, even when you're physically in a degraded sonic environment like a noisy city. This isn't just masking but replacement, giving your brain the experience of being in a balanced, healthy acoustic ecology. Imagine floating in a calm sea, waves gently lifting and lowering you in a slow, steady rhythm. The sound of water is all around you, below you, beside you. This is immersive sound, enveloping rather than directional. Many people find immersive soundscapes particularly soothing because they create a sense of being held or contained by the sound itself. Headphones can enhance this immersive quality, placing the sound directly in your ears rather than somewhere in the room. For some people, this feels too intimate or enclosed, while others find it perfectly comforting. It's worth experimenting with both headphones and speakers to see which creates the right balance of presence and comfort for you. Consider the temporal structure of sleep itself. You don't sleep steadily for 8 hours but instead cycle through different stages roughly every 90 minutes. Light sleep, deep sleep, REM sleep, brief awakening, and then back to light sleep again. Throughout these cycles, your brain's responsiveness to sound changes. During deep sleep, you're less responsive to sounds, needing louder or more unusual sounds to wake you. During REM sleep and light sleep, you're more responsive. White noise protects you throughout all these stages, but it's during the lighter sleep stages where it's most crucial for preventing disruption. Let's visit a misty morning in a forest, where fog muffles sound and everything feels close and soft. Moisture in the air absorbs high frequencies, making distant sounds seem even more distant and giving nearby sounds a particular clarity. This acoustic effect of fog creates a unique soundscape that many people find mysterious and calming. Fog also creates visual obscurity, limiting how far you can see, and this combination of limited vision and muffled sound can create a sense of being in a small, protected space even in a large forest. This might trigger feelings of safety and containment that facilitate relaxation and sleep. The question of natural versus artificial sound sources is interesting. Is recorded ocean sound less effective than actual ocean sound? Research suggests that for most people, the answer is no. Your brain responds to the acoustic properties of the sound, not to its source. A high-quality recording of rain can be just as soothing as actual rain, because what matters is the pattern of sound waves reaching your ears, not where they originated. This is liberating because it means you're not limited by your physical environment. You can have the acoustic benefits of living by the ocean or in a forest, even in a high-rise apartment in the city. Technology puts sonic environments at your fingertips. Imagine the sound of a creek in autumn, water flowing over leaves that have fallen into the stream. The leaves create small obstructions that change the water's flow, adding subtle variations to the burbling sound. This is another example of layered sound, the basic water flow plus the particular acoustic signature created by this specific creek at this specific time of year. These specific, detailed soundscapes can be especially engaging for people who find pure white noise too abstract or sterile. The detail provides just enough interest to hold attention gently without demanding active listening or analysis. Let's consider the social aspects of sleep and sound once more. In many traditional cultures, people didn't sleep alone in silent, separate rooms but together in shared spaces with ongoing ambient sound. The breathing of family members, the fire, wind outside, these created a rich soundscape that signaled community and safety. Modern individualized sleeping arrangements can be quieter but sometimes feel isolating. White noise, particularly complex soundscapes, can help fill that social acoustic gap, creating a sense of ambient presence that makes solitary sleep feel less alone. Picture heavy rain on a forest canopy, water first hitting leaves high above, then dripping down through multiple layers of vegetation, each layer creating its own sound signature. This creates a vertical soundscape, sounds coming from different heights, all around you. It's immersive in a different way than horizontal sounds like ocean waves. This verticality might subconsciously evoke the sense of shelter, of being under protective layers between you and the rain. Even though you're not actually in a forest, the sound can trigger that sense of being sheltered, protected from the elements by nature itself. The relationship between white noise volume and effectiveness is not linear. Louder isn't necessarily better. The optimal volume is just loud enough to mask disruptive sounds and create that acoustic comfort zone we discussed earlier, but quiet enough that it doesn't become a disruption itself. This usually falls between 50 and 70 decibels, though individual preferences vary. Some people benefit from adaptive white noise systems that automatically adjust volume based on environmental sound levels, getting slightly louder when outside noise increases and quieter when things are calm. This maintains effective masking while using the minimum necessary volume. Imagine lying in a hammock in a gentle breeze, the fabric creaking softly with each movement, leaves rustling overhead, perhaps distant water trickling somewhere nearby. This is a complex, multi-element soundscape where no single sound dominates. It's ensemble sound, each element contributing to a peaceful whole. Multi-element soundscapes like this can be particularly effective because they provide multiple points of gentle attention. If your mind wanders from one element, there's another to drift to, keeping you loosely engaged with the present moment without fixating on anything specific. As we approach the end of this extended journey through sound and sleep, it's worth reflecting on the profound gift of rest itself. Sleep is when your body repairs, when your immune system strengthens, when your brain consolidates learning and processes emotions. Sleep is not a luxury or a weakness but a fundamental human need as important as food and water. White noise, in all its forms and variations, is simply a tool to help you access this fundamental need more reliably. It's technology, whether it's a fan, a machine, or an app, in service of one of the most natural, essential things you do: rest and restore yourself for another day of living. So as you settle now into the deepest comfort, your breath slow and steady, your body heavy and relaxed, trust in this tool you've chosen. Trust in the sound surrounding you, protecting you, masking disruption and creating acoustic comfort. Trust in your body's ancient wisdom about rest. Let go of any remaining thoughts about tomorrow or yesterday. Let the sound be your anchor to this present moment, this safe space, this quiet hour where nothing is demanded of you except that you rest. The sound will continue through the night, a faithful companion asking nothing, offering everything. It will be there when you drift into sleep. It will be there in the depths of the night. And it will be there when you gently surface into morning, refreshed and restored. Sleep well, peaceful traveler. You've journeyed far through the landscapes of sound, and now you've earned the deep, healing rest that awaits you. The sound surrounds you. Safety embraces you. Sleep beckons you home. Yet there is still more to discover, more layers to unfold as you drift even deeper into relaxation. Our journey continues, slower still, like honey dripping from a spoon, each moment stretching into timeless peace as we explore even further into the world of sound and its gentle power over your resting mind. Let's begin by considering the frequency response curve of human hearing. Your ears are not equally sensitive to all frequencies. You hear mid-range frequencies, roughly between 2,000 and 5,000 Hz, most acutely. These are the frequencies of human speech, particularly the consonants that help you distinguish one word from another. Your hearing evolved to prioritize these frequencies because communication was crucial for survival. But at the edges of your hearing range, both the very low frequencies below 200 Hz and the very high frequencies above 8,000 Hz, your ears are less sensitive. You need more volume to perceive these frequencies clearly. This is why white noise, which contains equal energy at all frequencies, doesn't sound equally loud at all frequencies. The middle frequencies seem more prominent because your ears are tuned to notice them. Pink noise compensates for this by reducing the high frequencies, creating a sound that feels more balanced to human ears. It's like color correction in photography, adjusting the objective reality to match subjective perception. This balanced quality is part of why pink noise is often preferred for sleep over pure white noise. Imagine now that you're sitting in a screened porch during a summer thunderstorm. Rain drums on the roof above you, wind pushes sheets of water across the landscape, thunder rumbles in the distance. You're dry and safe, witnessing nature's power from a protected vantage point. This scenario combines multiple acoustic elements: the steady pink noise of rain, the brown noise of distant thunder, the variable whoosh of wind. This multi-layered storm soundscape engages your attention at multiple levels simultaneously. The steady rain provides the consistent baseline. The occasional thunder creates punctuation that's predictable enough not to startle, and the wind adds movement and variation. Together, they create a rich acoustic environment that can hold your interest without demanding active engagement. Let's explore the concept of acoustic habituation more deeply. When you first encounter a new sound, your brain's reticular activating system, a network of neurons in your brainstem, flags it as potentially important. This triggers a mild alerting response. Your attention shifts toward the sound, your body tenses slightly, preparing to respond if necessary. But if the sound continues without change, without indicating any threat or requiring any response, your reticular activating system learns to ignore it. This process can happen remarkably quickly, sometimes in less than a minute. The sound that initially grabbed your attention fades into the background, still present but no longer consciously noticed. However, and this is crucial for understanding white noise's effectiveness, habituation doesn't mean your brain stops processing the sound entirely. It's still being registered at a subconscious level, still providing that acoustic blanket that masks other potentially disruptive sounds. You've habituated to the white noise, but the white noise continues to protect you from sounds you haven't habituated to. Picture yourself deep in a cave, where water drips from stalactites into still pools below. Each drip creates a hollow, resonant sound that echoes briefly before fading. The drips are irregular, spaced seconds or sometimes minutes apart. This is the opposite of continuous white noise, yet in its own way, it can be equally meditative. The irregularity of dripping water prevents pattern prediction. Your brain can't anticipate the next drip, so it can't engage its prediction machinery. Yet each drip is familiar and non-threatening, requiring no response. This creates a state of relaxed attention, present but not tense, aware but not activated. Some people find this irregular natural rhythm even more soothing than continuous sound. Let's consider the role of bone conduction in hearing. Sound doesn't reach your inner ear only through your ear canal. It also travels through the bones of your skull, particularly your temporal bone. This is why your voice sounds different to you than it does on a recording. You hear your own voice through both air conduction and bone conduction, while others hear only the air-conducted sound. Very low frequencies, particularly those below 100 Hz, conduct especially well through bone. This means that brown noise, with its emphasis on these low frequencies, might be felt as much as heard, creating subtle physical vibrations in your skull that add a tactile dimension to the auditory experience. This physical quality may enhance brown noise's grounding, calming effect. Imagine standing at the edge of a vast wheat field as wind moves across it in waves. The wheat stalks bend and rustle in patterns, near stalks moving first, then the wave of wind traveling outward to distant stalks. The sound shifts and flows like the visual wave, creating a dynamic but continuous soundscape. This movement in sound, what acousticians might call spatial dynamics, creates interest without disruption. Your brain can follow the movement of sound through space, giving your attention something gentle to track while the overall volume and character remain constant. It's movement within stability, change within consistency. Let's explore the neuroscience of prediction error. Your brain is constantly generating predictions about what will happen next in every sensory domain. When reality matches prediction, your brain can relax. When reality violates prediction, your brain generates an error signal that demands attention and energy to resolve. White noise minimizes prediction errors. Because it's random, your brain can't generate specific predictions about what the next moment of sound will be like. But because it's statistically consistent, your brain can predict that the general character will remain the same. This creates a state of predictable unpredictability that's cognitively very restful. Sudden sounds in a quiet environment create large prediction errors. Your brain predicted continued silence, but instead received loud noise. This generates a startle response and stress reaction. But a sudden sound against a white noise background creates a smaller prediction error because the background was already characterized by variation and randomness. Picture a misty morning in the mountains, where waterfalls cascade down cliff faces, their sound echoing off stone walls and mixing with the hushed whisper of wind through mountain passes. The acoustic complexity of this environment, with sounds reflecting and refracting through mist and around rock formations, creates what's called a reverberant soundscape. Reverb, the persistence of sound after the source has stopped due to multiple reflections, adds richness and depth to acoustic environments. Natural reverb, like you'd find in canyons or large caves, has a complex pattern that our brains find pleasing. Some white noise soundscapes include subtle reverb to create a sense of space and naturalness. Let's consider the phenomenon of sound localization. Your brain determines where sounds come from by comparing the timing and intensity of sound arriving at your two ears. A sound from your right reaches your right ear slightly before your left ear and is slightly louder in your right ear. Your brain processes these microsecond differences to pinpoint the sound's location. White noise, particularly when played through stereo speakers or headphones, doesn't have a specific location. It comes from everywhere and nowhere at once. This can create a sense of being surrounded or enveloped by sound, which many people find comforting. It's like an acoustic embrace, sound holding you gently from all directions. Imagine floating in a sensory deprivation tank, where the water is at skin temperature and the environment is completely dark. In these tanks, some people report that the subtle sounds of their own breathing and heartbeat, usually masked by environmental noise, become prominent and even disturbing. This demonstrates how much we rely on ambient sound to mask our own biological noise. White noise, in a sense, is the opposite of a sensory deprivation tank. Instead of removing all stimulation to see what remains, it provides gentle, meaningless stimulation that masks both external disruptions and the sometimes unsettling awareness of our own bodily sounds. Let's explore the chemistry of relaxation. When you relax, your body increases production of neurotransmitters like GABA, gamma-aminobutyric acid, which inhibits neural activity and promotes calmness, and serotonin, which contributes to feelings of well-being and helps regulate sleep. At the same time, production of stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline decreases. White noise facilitates relaxation by reducing the number of alerting stimuli your brain encounters, which helps tip the neurochemical balance toward relaxation. Fewer startles and attention grabs mean fewer stress hormone releases, allowing the natural evening rise in melatonin and the calming neurotransmitters to work unimpeded. Picture yourself in a Japanese garden, where a carefully designed bamboo fountain creates a rhythmic talk sound as water fills a segment of bamboo, tips it to empty, and lets it swing back to strike a rock. This is called a shurshuro-doshi, and its purpose is precisely to provide regular, non-threatening sound that enhances the garden's peaceful atmosphere. The genius of the shurshuro-doshi is that its rhythm is slow enough that each sound is a discrete event rather than part of a continuous drone, yet regular enough to be predictable and safe. It's the opposite approach to white noise's continuous randomness, but it serves a similar purpose, providing acoustic structure that calms rather than agitates. Let's consider individual differences in optimal arousal level. According to arousal theory, everyone has an optimal level of stimulation where they function and feel best. Some people have naturally high optimal arousal and seek out stimulation, while others have lower optimal arousal and prefer calm, quiet environments. For people with low optimal arousal, typical environmental sounds can feel overstimulating, making it hard to relax and sleep. For people with high optimal arousal, too much quiet can feel understimulating, making their minds race to generate internal stimulation. White noise can help both types. For the first, it masks overstimulating sounds. For the second, it provides just enough stimulation to prevent restless mind wandering. Imagine lying in a field on a summer night, listening to crickets and cicadas create their nighttime symphony. Each insect species has its own characteristic frequency and rhythm. Tree crickets chirp at higher frequencies, ground crickets at lower frequencies, cicadas create a pulsing drone. Together, they create a dense acoustic texture that approaches white noise. These biological soundscapes have been part of summer nights for millions of years, far longer than humans have existed. There's something deeply primal about the sound of insects in darkness, a signal that the ecosystem is healthy, that all is well in the natural world. This can trigger a profound sense of safety and connection to nature, even when you're listening to a recording in a city apartment. Let's explore the concept of temporal resolution in hearing. Your ears and brain can distinguish sounds that are separated by as little as 10 milliseconds. This extraordinary temporal resolution is part of what makes human hearing so acute and sensitive to change. But this sensitivity can also make you vulnerable to sleep disruption from sudden sounds. White noise exploits your hearing's temporal resolution in an interesting way. Because it contains rapid, random fluctuations at all frequencies, your brain's attempt to track changes essentially gives up. There are too many changes happening too quickly to track them all, so your auditory system relaxes its vigilance, allowing you to rest. Picture a waterfall in a lush rainforest, where water falls over multiple tiers of rock, creating a complex cascade. The top tier creates high-pitched splashing sounds as water breaks into droplets. The middle tier creates mid-range gurgling as water flows over and around rocks. The bottom tier creates low rumbling as water collects in a deep pool. Together, these tiers create a natural full-spectrum noise. Multi-tiered waterfalls are particularly effective soundscapes because they create acoustic richness without requiring large volumes of water. The differentiation between tiers provides subtle variety within the overall consistency of falling water, keeping the soundscape interesting at a subconscious level. Let's consider the role of attention in sleep onset. Falling asleep requires a delicate balance. Too much attention to anything, including your attempt to fall asleep, can keep you awake. But completely scattered, racing attention can also prevent sleep. You need what's sometimes called diffuse attention, awareness that's present but not focused, engaged but not concentrated. White noise is perfect for supporting diffuse attention. It provides something to be aware of without requiring focus. Your attention can rest lightly on the sound, or drift through it, or wander to physical sensations of relaxation, all while the sound continues to provide a stable background that prevents external disruptions from hijacking your attention. Imagine being inside a lighthouse during a storm, massive waves crashing against the stone foundation far below, wind howling around the curved walls. The sounds are powerful but muffled by thick stone, creating a sense of witnessing great force from absolute safety. This combination of power and protection can be psychologically very satisfying. Lighthouse soundscapes tap into the archetype of shelter, of being safely enclosed while the elements rage outside. This can trigger deep feelings of security and gratitude for shelter, emotions that facilitate relaxation and trust in your environment. let's explore the relationship between white noise and focus. While we've primarily discussed white noise for sleep, many people also use it to enhance concentration during waking hours. The mechanism is similar. By masking variable environmental sounds, white noise creates a stable acoustic environment that reduces distraction. But there's more to it than just masking. Some research suggests that white noise may enhance activity in the brain's default mode network, a set of regions that are active during mind-wandering and creative thinking. By occupying the parts of your brain that would otherwise seek out environmental stimulation, white noise may free other parts to engage more fully with internal tasks. Picture yourself in a monastery garden at dawn, where the first birds begin to sing but the world is still mostly quiet. A small fountain provides gentle water sounds. Distant temple bells ring occasionally. This soundscape has a quality of sacred silence, not true silence but rather sound used intentionally to enhance rather than disturb peace. Sacred soundscapes from various traditions recognize that complete silence can be challenging, and that carefully chosen sounds can actually deepen meditative states. White noise serves a similar function in secular contexts, using sound to enhance silence rather than break it. Let's consider the physics of sound absorption. Different materials absorb different frequencies of sound. Soft, porous materials like curtains, carpets, and bedding absorb high frequencies effectively but let low frequencies pass through. Hard, reflective materials like windows, walls, and floors reflect most sounds but might absorb some very low frequencies through vibration. This is why the same white noise can sound different in different rooms. A bedroom with thick carpet and heavy curtains will absorb more high frequencies, making the white noise sound deeper and more muffled. A room with hardwood floors and minimal soft furnishings will reflect more sound, making the white noise feel brighter and more present. Imagine floating down a slow river on an inner tube in late summer. The water makes gentle lapping sounds against the rubber. Birds call occasionally from trees along the banks. The current creates subtle turbulence sounds as it flows around rocks and over shallow sections. This is another multi-element natural soundscape where water provides the foundation and other elements add texture. Lazy river soundscapes have a horizontal quality, a sense of drifting along with time rather than being suspended in it. This can create feelings of surrender and flow, of releasing control and allowing yourself to be carried, which is precisely the mental shift needed for sleep. Let's explore the concept of acoustic ecology balance. In a healthy ecosystem, predator and prey, different species, and different sound sources exist in balance. No single sound dominates completely. Each organism has evolved to make sounds that occupy particular acoustic niches, particular frequency ranges and timing patterns that minimize overlap with other species. When you listen to a balanced natural soundscape, your brain recognizes this diversity and balance, even if you're not consciously aware of it. This recognition of ecological health can trigger subtle feelings of safety and rightness, a sense that all is well in the world, which facilitates relaxation. Picture a spring rain shower in a garden, where different surfaces create different sounds. Rain on broad leaves creates lower-pitched taps. Rain on gravel creates higher, sharper sounds. Rain gathering in gutters and draining through downspouts creates flowing water sounds. Rain on a nearby pond creates gentle splashing. All these sounds layer together into a rich rain soundscape. Garden rain demonstrates how acoustic complexity in nature arises from diversity of surfaces and structures. This natural complexity is very different from the complexity of urban noise, which tends to be harsh and unpredictable. Natural acoustic complexity has organic patterns that our brains find inherently more digestible and less stressful. Let's consider the phenomenon of sound-induced visual imagery. Many people report seeing colors, patterns, or scenes when listening to sounds with their eyes closed. This synesthetic-like experience suggests that sound activates not just auditory brain regions but also visual and memory centers, creating a rich, immersive mental experience. Let's consider the role of expectation and ritual in sleep. The routine you follow before bed, whether it's brushing teeth, reading, or listening to white noise, creates a psychological transition from waking activities to sleep. This routine signals to your brain that sleep time is approaching, initiating the cascade of hormonal and neural changes that facilitate sleep. White noise can be a powerful part of this ritual because it's immediately recognizable and completely consistent. The moment you hear your familiar sleep sound, your brain knows what's coming next, and it begins preparing for sleep before you've even fully relaxed. As we drift deeper into this final stretch of our journey, your breath now slow and effortless, your body completely at rest, let's reflect on the gift you've given yourself by exploring the world of sound and sleep. You've learned that sound is not just something that happens to you but something you can shape, choose, and use to enhance your well-being. White noise, in all its colors and variations, is a tool for self-care, a way of taking control of your acoustic environment to create the conditions for deep, restorative rest. It's technology and nature working together, ancient auditory preferences meeting modern understanding. So let the sound continue to surround you now, whatever form it takes in this moment. Let it be your companion through the deepest hours of night. Let it protect your rest and guard your dreams. Let it remind you that you're safe, that you're cared for, that you can truly let go. The journey through sound has brought you here, to this moment of perfect peace. There's nowhere else you need to be, nothing else you need to do. The sound will continue. Your body knows how to sleep. And you, dear traveler, can finally, completely, blissfully rest. Sleep deeply. Sleep well. Let the sound carry you through the night to morning's gentle shore.